So I just found out that they made a birth control method for men that is a shoulder gel. And I am just depressed now because how we treat women and how we treat men. The birth control methods that have only existed for women, they haven't even thought about creating something for men until recently. But for decades, the birth control methods that have existed for women are invasive, painful, and torturous. They literally cut open our arm and put a stick in there. So we have a permanent scar and a stick in our arm. Or they sew a piece of plastic into our womb. So they go really deep into us and sew a piece of plastic in there. Or insert it, depending on what method. Or they give us hormonal birth control pills, which increase our risk for blood clots by 50%. Make us depressed, like clinically depressed, and unable to orgasm. Can you imagine if men wouldn't even consider taking it? And I was just reading the comments of the women, and they were just as upset as I was. And they were saying, well, yeah, getting pregnant doesn't matter to men. Like they can't get pregnant, and impregnating a woman is like a 5-second thing and then no responsibility for the rest of their life. And for a woman, it changes your entire life, your body, and then it makes me think of endometriosis and the fact that 15% of women of reproductive age, so many women have endometriosis, which is a disease that there's no cure for. We've known about this for decades. Nobody's trying to find a cure for it. And it means women are in constant excruciating pain every single day sometimes, or their entire period long. And there's other symptoms like painful intercourse. Can you imagine if a man had that? If that was a disease that affected men, there would be a cure like this. And this has existed for decades and just nobody's doing anything to find a cure. And now there's a birth control method for men that is a fucking shoulder gel. A shoulder gel. And it's one of those things where I'm just so sad that I'm not even angry. Like, how is this how we treat women in society? As opposed to how we treat men. And it just makes me feel like, well, it makes me want to be abstinent for the rest of my life, for one thing. But I'm just so perplexed and so depressed. Like, how is that okay? How does nobody care? Like, how do you think? Because the reason why they created a shoulder gel for men is because they know that men would never use birth control if it had the effects that all of the birth control methods have on women. Like if they had to cut their arm open and insert a stick in there, men wouldn't do it. If they had to sew a piece of plastic or insert a piece of plastic into their penis, men would never do it. Or into their prostate or into wherever, their balls or whatever, men would never do it. If they had to take pills that affected their hormones, just alone that they would never do. For birth control, because they don't care about women and it doesn't affect them. if they had to take something that, and for a lot of women this is not like the most depressing thing about birth control is, for men that's a thing for pleasure, right? For women that's not the case. For women this is a thing that if they don't do, it'll change their whole life, because if they get pregnant then it's their problem. Like, the guy can be gone in 5 seconds and it doesn't matter for them. But for a woman, it changes your whole body. You can't work, you can't do all of these things, you have to take care of a human. It's just, you're tied to, it changes your whole life forever. And I'm just sad. And what do you do when you're sad? And you stick a camera in your face. Because, because the only way that anything is ever going to change is if we put public pressure on things, and if we actually change them ourselves as women. Because otherwise it's never going to happen, because men don't care. Men don't give a fuck. So I think it's really important for us to remember how much power we have. The most common way people give away their power is by thinking they don't have any, right? That's one of my favorite quotes ever. And social media is such a powerful tool that we shouldn't take for granted and be very careful with. But it's very empowering. It makes us very powerful because we get to create uproar and public pressure, and we get to change the world that way. So I guess that's why I'm making this video. But also, I probably wouldn't mind seeing some other women commenting their outrage and experiencing some solidarity in that way. But I'm honestly just a little in shock. A shoulder gel, and you're not even working on changing, you're not even trying to improve female birth control methods, because women will take it anyway because they have to. It's not a choice. It has such far-reaching consequences for women, and for men it's not a necessity. For men it's just if they want to. That's why it has to be something that they would want to use. But for women, people know that it doesn't have to be a pleasant experience. They'll do it because they have to do it. And I just find it depressing that so we can invent a shoulder gel for men as birth control, but we're not even trying to improve the experience of birth control for women. I just hope that this leads to women never taking birth control again and it all being men. But then that's the problem again. Then you have to trust a man would do that. And it has such little consequences for them and such far-reaching ones for you. And before you say, no, men are like that. Well, if you say that, I know what you were made of. So don't even, if you're going to say that, just go away.